another week in advance. How are you doing tonight, Christopher?
Really great. It's been kind of an interesting adventure with this big full moon in Scorpio, and I think in a lot of ways this passage of this full moon this last week was kind of the calming down process. Everything kind of spiked and peaked with the full moon, and now we're moving toward what looks like a fairly mellow week.
Yeah, things are finally easing up because that Grand Cross in April, it really was no joke. And those eclipses, as an astrologer, we went through the extreme stuff. So now things are tapering off, like you said, and we're going deeper. And for some reason, the universe was taking a very deep pause. It's like everybody should start to really, I think, reflect on things, look deeper in themselves, where the static, or the electricity, it might still have little remnants of it around, but it's not extreme. And it really is bringing people more internal than usual. Before there's a big surge, I feel like there's something brewing, and the universe is calming things down before the next shift.
Oh yeah, you can definitely kind of feel that calm before the storm kind of energy. Not that I'm saying we're going to be having like tornadoes heading down our way, but I think it is going to be a very active summer, especially with that big event coming up that we're all going to be participating in when when Jupiter advances into Leo. That's going to be, a somewhat significant shift of energy because Jupiter really loves being in Cancer. It's very watery and very much an environment where it can expand, and now it's going to take all of that watery energy and put a fire under it. So we're going to have a steamy summer, I think, and I think that that next year and a half is going to be a lot of fun to get everybody motivated and reinvested and reconnected to their passion and their heart's desire.
Yeah, Jupiter in Leo is going to be exciting, and Jupiter as a whole right now, as he's finally starting to move, there's a lot of things that are getting prepared to expand. Jupiter's coming out of a big cardinal cross. He's also coming out of a lot of energy that other planets have been affecting him. He's been having big, powerful, and Pluto opposing him. He's had Uranus been squaring him. I mean, he's had Mars even, that's been squaring Jupiter. So Jupiter, even though he's so big, he's been cornered on. It's like a Sagittarius out on the trail, going on the journey and like being stopped by 4 different guards. Like Jupiter doesn't like to be stopped much. Jupiter's always wanting to give more, especially in Cancer. He's wanting to give. And there's been pressure around that to kind of like stop the giving. But now as Jupiter's starting to advance forward, things are going to start really expanding here very quick, because even though he's come off the cardinal cross, the truth is he's only been 3 degrees off Uranus. He's only been 4 degrees off Pluto. That's not much. There's the spirit of influence of the other planets, or the battle of these gods in space. There's still the last bit of the remnants kind of wearing off. It's almost like when you see a jet go in the direction and the trail of the stream of the jet, like that last bit of the energy is there. And as we're advancing into this week, that gets more clear, and Jupiter starts to triumph all over again, especially because you had brought up before we did this, Jupiter's in a nice trine over to Chiron. So there's so much healing going on right now, even though maybe things aren't going crazy and maybe is advancing as fast as you want them to right now. Maybe there's a reason why for all that.
Yeah, Jupiter definitely likes to take things from the depth, and after doing this kind of an interesting, as you said, oppositional dance with Pluto, and Pluto really needs to bring things up from the depths of the subconscious, and now that all of that has surfaced and we're able to actually investigate those hidden agendas, those old wounds, those animosities we've been carrying around with us, then we get that surge of energy from Chiron, as you had stated, and that definitely opens up the potential for healing. And the only way, of course, that we can heal others is to heal ourselves, and vice versa. So Right now, with that exact interaction, because Chiron is at 17 degrees, Jupiter's at 17 degrees, so definitely a nice period here of balming old wounds and getting beyond that tendency to linger in images of the past, so that we're starting to direct our attention now to the present moment and then focus on generating the future that we want to step into without having the burden of guilt that we're unfortunately part of the human condition. We all carry our guilt with us, and the message of Chiron is, to forgive those around you and forgive yourself. Let go of it.
Especially in Pisces, you got to have compassion, especially I think for your own individual self. We all make mistakes. We're not perfect. We all are also been given a certain hand by the universe, but there's a reason for it. The universe is trying to expand us in ways that maybe we're not able to see. These are water signs. These are about intuitions, and I think letting yourself see and try and listen to, I think, the sign that what is the universe saying to you, like maybe it's not so cut and dry in reality, but it's so clear internally, and to listen to that and to heal from that. Because if we do look, this is the week that Mars finally goes direct. And that means that Mars is going to stop moving backwards in the sky, and now he can start to triumph again and move forward. And for Mars, he cannot ask for a more happier moment in his life. Any warrior that is in retreat loves to get out of retreat and back advance on the battlefield. And in our lives, we have retreated a lot for the last 2.5 months. And it's been in the sign of Libra, where there's a lot of things to weigh out intellectually. It's a very intellectual, masculine sign, Libra. Yes, it's very got feminine qualities, but the masculinity of moving into a relationship is a masculine connection. And there's a lot of things in our life I think we're looking at with connection and moving forward in, but there's been so much to weigh out. And with all these grand water energies happening, this trine, there's all this internal energy we might be able to see, but externally it might not be moving at the speed, the rhythm, and the actions that we're used to. So this is a good switch that's finally coming here in our lives, as the universe has paused things for a reason, to make sure as you begin to advance forward this week again, that you have been taking a look at things very seriously. You have been internalizing, and you've been weighing a lot of things out.
Exactly. It's interesting that Mars is sitting at that 9-degree point for over a week. And as it has, kind of come to that final point of retrograde over the weekend, then we're going to see it start moving toward an actual communion with Jupiter. And it'll be a few more weeks before we really get a surge of energy. But again, Jupiter being the great expansive planet, and Mars being that desire to advance, desire to initiate, I think as we move into the mid part of the Sun in Mercury, which is already, it's going to be a very electric mercurial cycle that we'll be moving into in just another week. So we should really see things speed up dramatically in June and then carry us through July and August.
Yeah, things are going to really speed up here. Starting from this week, even though Mars is not going to move much, he's only going to move a couple clicks, like in degrees, not even a degree, or minutes, should I say. It is the signal of Mars knowing that the horns are trumpeting again. Dun, 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 dun. I mean, that Mars cannot be happier to move forward, because any Aries, it's about moving. And this is a really powerful time in our lives, as there's not much else really going on in the astrology except this really powerful grand water trine, which I think we covered, of allowance, surrender, spirituality, growth, expanding on our feelings. And this is Jupiter and Saturn, which are partly in a trine as well, of, you know what, if we're gonna make some big powerful expansion in our life, let's do the responsible thing. Let's take it time slow, slow. One thing that Saturn does is, hey, we'll pay Jupiter off if you do it by his rules. If you pay attention to what's happening inside. We had a big full moon coming into this week in Scorpio, which probably led you deeper inside to yourself and see what you really want in your life, what you really desire, what work there is to do. And so it should be pretty clear, I think, coming into this week of what everybody really wants, what everybody's willing to go get. And we might have a little confusion because Mars has been making a quincunx actually to Neptune, which can kind of confuse this Mars direction. Like, well, I know I need to move forward, but I don't know exactly where. Even though I know I have these desires, there could still be the confusion of like, well, I don't know where, especially a Mars in Libra that was like weighing it all out so much. So I think the whole point of this week is start to progress yourself to move forward. And don't trip yourself out if you might not know exactly where it is yet. Just sometimes moving forward one little step at a time will eventually get you there. And this is a week where, you know, as we come into this weekend, the moon's in Sagittarius, coming into Capricorn, going to hump over Pluto and hump over all this stuff. You know, I think that this is a weekend of, you know, I think being prepared, maybe planning. You know, one thing about a Capricorn moon, especially on Pluto, is maybe there's some plans to do. You know, as there's a lot to prepare for. And Venus as well has come over the Pluto-Uranus square. So there's a lot around relationships. Maybe you've seen a lot of the breaking points, the excitement, the changes you want to make, the commitments you do and don't want to make. Venus is going to square Jupiter, where this is time to look at the beliefs, time to make sure that we're looking at all the options, that maybe we're not rushing into things too quick. I think this is definitely a time of preparing, but not, let's say, just running in full speed yet.
Right. It's not time to rally. It is time to review, look at the roadmaps, give consideration to things that have been going on over the last 6 months, what you want to fine-tune, how you want to reassess and redirect your path. The other thing that I'm finding interesting right now is the nodes are moving further and further back into that, you know, air-fire polarity, and I think now we're going to see a lot of karma that we associate with, you know, the Aries fiery energy and the Libra airy energy start to surface, and I think it is going to have an effect on national identities. So over the next couple of weeks, you know, we had that person in Austria who had won that European competition, and that is very, very much a Libra kind of thing to begin with. A drag queen who rises to the highest level of you know, notoriety and wins the big musical event of the year in the European circle. And I think we're going to see that kind of leveling out, balancing out, where we're going to be getting a lot of messages and a lot of images about prejudice and fear and cultural differences. And the nodes are going to continue to highlight that, you know, it's time for people to get past all of their bigotry and start, you know, getting a bigger vision of what unity really is and how unity does, in fact, offer us a much more rewarding lifestyle. And, you know, it really is a payoff in a lot of ways. It's a way that we can pay ourselves back and pay the world off as arriving at that. So the node activity is real interesting because we have seen it kind of bubble up in the last 10 days, 2 weeks, and show us how we need to strive for balance in our lives.
Yeah, we're needing to find that balance by making sure that we're aggressively identifying correctly, you know. Aries is a sign of action. And here's Mars doing its final retrograde and moving into action mode again. So I think we're actually going to see the Aries energy of the South Node and this balance beam stuff get more intense. I think it's been a little, we've kind of been off the hook a little bit, if that makes sense in kind of a weird way. Like, I think it's not going to be on, we're not off the hook now. Like, we're going to have to actually like really see if we're taking correct actions, because we do still have Venus in Aries. We've got Uranus in Aries. And it comes into 15 degrees as Mars goes direct on Monday. It's like, you know, there's this powerful now surge. Now, even though it might not be the craziest surge of your life, the truth is, though, that it is a surge, and it is going to trigger something. I definitely believe as we come into this week, there's a trigger point. And it could even highlight a lot of the energy that we went through in April. There might be some unresolved issues. There might be some unresolved relationship stuff. There could be some unresolved things that we've been reviewing on that we haven't made decisions on yet. That Mars coming direct is going to force those decisions. Mars is a forcer. And in Libra, he can't wait to get out. He's spent a lot of time in here. You know, Mars is ready to move and out of Libra, to be honest. And it's going to be 2+ years until Mars comes back to retrograde. So Mars coming direct now is a huge thing, you know? Like, he doesn't retrograde until, you know, every 2 years. I mean, if you look at the other planets, they're retrograding, you know, every year, you know? Mars can go 2 years without a retrograde. He's the only planet that can do that. So he's in the sun, right? The fire signs, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting to me that he is the only one that can do that. He can skip away from going backwards so long because he's perfectly positioned by in the perfect position from Earth, the perfect position from the sun. You know, there's definitely, especially, and this is kind of going off subject, and I think you would love to go in this with me, but you know, there's doing so much research on Mars now and how connected to Earth it really is, like with the rivers it's finding, and even maybe, who knows, of the life that used to be there before. So I think Mars is definitely one of the bigger players of all transits to follow in charts, and how connected to masculine, and how connected to humanity, and how connected to, you know, that Martian land our Earth is. And it moving forward now is nothing to just glance by. You've got to see, I think, this week that it's on now, especially because the sun comes into Gemini this week, and maybe you should follow with that. I mean, do you think this is really going to pop things off with that sun coming in Gemini and Mars direct?
Oh, I think it definitely is. I think we're going to see a lot of things accelerate with, you know, Mercury's already well positioned there. Mercury's real happy at that midpoint, 16 degrees Gemini, and then when the sun advances at the end of the week, it's going to reinforce that communication energy. So we can definitely expect to see a lot of people who had lost their voice for a long time, all of a sudden reclaiming their voice, reclaiming their identity, the intention of where they want to go with their lives. So it definitely, at the end of this coming week, we will see an acceleration. Also, as Mars continues to advance in Libra, we're going to see Mars starting to put intention on that next sign, which is Scorpio. And Mars is very, very nicely placed in Scorpio. It's very compatible with the Scorpio energy. So when Mars starts advancing toward that entry into Scorpio in a few weeks, we are definitely going to see that process of shaking ourselves loose from ambiguity, which is what Libra is all about. You know, Libra is the one sign in the zodiac that has the most difficulty making a solid decision and acting on it. And then Scorpio is like, I'm going to do it, damn it. And so we are going to see a big shift as we're moving closer and closer toward that equinox coming up in June, and then advancing into summer. So I would say that people need to really embrace and appreciate this kind of a quiet time in the tidal pools, because the tide will start coming back in again, and those tidal pools will disappear because we'll see the waves cresting and the movement and the activity of all of these intense energies going on in these water signs before Jupiter finally gets into fire, and Scorpio eventually gets into fire. Very, very interesting there. And Neptune will still be grounding us out in good old Pisces.
Yeah, and you know, I think you're right with relaxing, like my cat over here. Like, I just think this is definitely a time before there's a surge. Like especially I think this is the weekend. You know, the weekend, especially getting prepared till that sun comes in Gemini midweek. So the weekend into the beginning, like, you know, enjoy the kind of pause, because, you know, when things start to move forward here, it might become extreme.
Exactly, and it will be a nice earthy energy as the moon moves through Capricorn, and everybody will be feeling somewhat calmed down and back to their center. And then as the moon moves forward next week, we start seeing it move through Aquarius, and everything starts to become somewhat cerebral. We start looking around and evaluating where we have been and where we're going. And then during the mid part of next week, it will advance into, once again, the depths of Pisces, and that's when we'll really get a lot of sensitivity, a lot of emotional, what's the word for it? Feeling like you've arrived at the emotions that you've been desiring, feeling like there's a sense of fulfillment. And one of the things would be, looking at the tarot cards, my image for the end of this coming week would be that image of the Ace of Cups and finally having your cup start to overflow. So, speaking of cards,
that makes good sense to me too.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's see what the cards have to say. And we start out this weekend with a very egalitarian kind of energy. Spread your arms out, open your eyes, embrace life, because the universe is revealing itself to you. And this is a very nice, gentle process. It's not like a thunderbolt coming from Mount Olympus and the gods saying, hey, pay attention. This is an entry, a passage into a very nice period where we can feel warmth and support, and we can share with others our ability to nurture and to be nurtured. So through the weekend, we'll find, we're beginning to start feeling that activity of Chiron, as we had mentioned at the beginning of the program. The Queen of Cups comes up, and a lot of healing potential, and again, emotional release. It seems like that's really the image that we want to put a lot of emphasis on for this particular episode, is the fact that you can heal, you can be restored, and you can extend that healing to those around you. As we move into the first part of next week, the moon flips into Aquarius, and everybody's talking. This is the Eight of Rods. It's a fiery energy. It's drawing a lot of that kind of Jupiterian expansion through communication. So I think a lot of people are going to be able to resolve conflicts, resolve situations that have been problematic. So next week is going to be, the first part of the week especially, is going to be a good work week for coming out of that cycle of confusion, frustration, the inability to complete projects. We'll see a lot of things shifting forward and advancing next week. Then by midweek, the Chariot comes up, and again, I have a tendency to always associate the Chariot card with the activity of Mars, and here we're seeing Mars starting to accelerate. The wheels of the Chariot are starting to go around again in the proper direction this time. So we'll be feeling a little bit of restless energy as the week continues to unfold, and as we approach this coming weekend, we'll be seeing the moon moving into fiery Aries. So Thursday, Friday, Saturday, people are going to want to get out, move around, and do things. The important thing, I think, is at the end of this coming week, we'll realize how far we have gained, how much ground we have gained, how much we have accomplished. And it's not just from the last few days, the last few weeks, but this is a review that takes us all the way back to when the sun was in Scorpio and the full moon was in Taurus. So we're seeing this 6-month period as being a period of growth that was in some ways forced. It was, kind of extreme cycles of growth, but we weathered the storm and we have managed to accomplish the goal. So overall, a nice week of being able to sit back and give ourselves a pat on the back and appreciate the fact that we did in fact persevere.
Wow, really powerful cards. I love the Chariot card. It's my favorite card in the deck, and that definitely goes with the journey beginning kind of energy and spirit pulling us. And that last card you pulled goes so well with, you're right. I think there's a lot to kind of celebrate about. I mean, this last 6 months as Mars went into Libra in December, so and it's going to continue here through July. I mean, this is an 8th-month cycle. I mean, this is one to definitely see that celebration, that there's so much we have gone through, and there's a lot to really be proud of in ourselves. I'm just going to be completely honest. As an astrologer, the one transit that I bite my teeth on and cringe and just pray to God every night to help me through is Mars retrogrades. So in the last 2 months that I've been living, and I'm a very strong masculine Mars in my chart, they're not easy. For some people out there, they can be very, very difficult. For others, though, that don't like masculine energy month, this is a great time, for them. So it could be a little freaky if you're not into a lot of strong strength, man energy. Well, it might not be that easy coming up. But I think for all of us, we all can deal with that energy well. And, especially for men, this can be finally a swing back into the direction that you want in your life. And this has been an intense period. I mean, you can look at any time in your life and look back when Mars was retrograde and did its weird thing. It's funky times. It's not normal. Things don't really go. It's just weird times. It's not very, there's a lot to reflect on during these periods. I think Mars retrogrades are probably one of the most powerful retrograde periods we can go through, besides Venus as well. Mars and Venus are very weird, and we've had both this year. Both. That's rare. It's not normal. So this is an exciting moment to finally pass both, because Venus doesn't retrograde for every 18 months. So, it's a hallelujah moment. We have passed the Mars and Venus retrogrades.
Exactly, and now we're preparing to advance with that accomplishment sense of having refined ourselves and transformed ourselves. And actually, I'm going to make mention of something coming up here. We've got this big adventure coming up in Arizona in a couple of months, and one of the things that I will be offering to people when we get down there is naming ceremonies, Native American naming ceremonies. So if you're feeling like you've gone through a big transformation and that you have moved past a major era in your life, if you feel as though you have transformed yourself, become part of something bigger, and seen a bigger vision of yourself, a naming ceremony could be very appropriate, because in Native American culture we change our names at various pivotal points in our lives where we've been transformed by experience. So that's more encouragement for people to go ahead and make that commitment, book, and show up and see us in Arizona in a couple of months.
Yeah, that's going to be super exciting. There's so many awesome things at the event, and I can't wait to do it with you. Plus, you're also going to be doing some really amazing tarot stuff as well. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yes, and then there will be the walks in the desert and beautiful stars at night. What more could you ask?
The stars at night is what I'm looking forward to the most.
Yeah,
especially to watch Jupiter come into Leo. I mean, even though I think we're going to have to teach people of how the star systems work and how the precession works and how, in view per se, Jupiter will be in Cancer, but what that means of how we calculate Jupiter in Leo. I'm going to teach people that, because I think people get very confused. They get a lot of emails all the time. People go on their cell phones and go, I'm looking up at, Jupiter, and it says it's in Gemini. I thought it was in Cancer. And the reason why I'm doing this event is to teach people the truth of astrology and how we do the calculations for those that want to know. And then even if you don't want to know that deep, nerdy stuff, the fun in how to look up at the stars and know where they're at, very simply. I'm going to teach that.
Yes, and everybody will always be able to figure out where the heck they are by referencing the heavens. So it's going to be informative, it's going to be celebrative, it's going to be rejuvenating, and people definitely need to get on board and join us for an adventure in the sun.
Well, and Mars too will be ending its long journey here in Libra, and that'll be a nice time. Mars will be picking up speed again. Jupiter being Leo. It's definitely going to feel like a celebration, not just because you're hanging out with us two, but because honestly, there's this awesome, crazy astrological shifts happening. So.
Absolutely. Well, David, it's been a wonderful discussion this evening, and another week we'll have a lot of information to share with people about this new shift we into as the sun advances into Gemini.
Yeah, I think you and I were talking before this. The sun in Taurus with the Mars retrograde can go nowhere fast. And a Mars direct in Libra trining a sun in Gemini can go a lot of paces quick. So
yes.
We're going to go from extreme slow to wildfire, out of nowhere, 1,000 mosquitoes in your face. So it's like, whoa.
Yes, and the gate will open and the Bronco will be released. So don't lose your hold on that.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Chris. Yeah, well, I will talk to you next week. Really good cards, really good energy. Leo says goodbye, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, David. Good night.
Bye.